forms bed, you don't notice such kind of the structures over the water surface. If you have this kind of the dunes, this we basically call it as a dunes. If you have the boil structure or the vortex structure over the water surface. So that means if you are seeing such kind of the water surfaces, it gives an indication to you that the river bed is not plain. It is going to have the certain undulations. Okay. Like I just told you, we train the river. Why do we train the river? We train the river so as to avoid the problems that are associated with it. Say for example, if I have flooding problem, then what I have to do? I have to go with the embankment. What is embankment? Embankment is a high raised wall that is constructed along the river bank parallel to the river. So this is basically the embankment that you are seeing here. So this is river. Along the river bank, there is a parallel wall that is going to flow. That we basically call it as a embankment. In addition, say for example, if you have a bank erosion, how can you protect your bank from erosion? Why the river bank is going to get eroded? When river angle of attack is towards the bank which is weak, it is going to erode. So that means if I divert the angle of attack of the river, if the river angle of attack is coming towards this way, if I divert it towards the other side, then this bank is going to be protected. Or I could do something. If I reduce the velocity of the angle of attack of the river, if the angle of attack of the river towards the particular bank is with 5 meter per second of the velocity, if I bring down the velocity of the river to 0.5 meter per second or 1 meter per second, then I am going to reduce the intensity at which the angle of attack of the river is going to be there towards the bank, right? That means I have to do two things. One, I have to divert the angle of attack of the river towards the other side, or I have to reduce the velocity of the angle of attack of the river. How can I reduce the angle of attack of the river? Here, there are some structures called porcupines. Okay, these are the roughness elements. Okay, so what we do, in some thousands number, we put such kind of the porcupine members along the river bank. So what happens? The velocity is going to be reduced, so the bank is going to be protected. Okay, so now this is one way of protecting the river bank. Another way of protecting the river bank is I shift the angle of attack of the river. I divert the angle of attack of the river. What I do is that there is a structure called a spur. Okay, this structure is also called as ground. Okay, this structure is perpendicularly placed inside the river. So that means if the river is moving in this direction, you put a wall that is constructed into the river with certain inclination. Either I can go perpendicular or 30-degree inclination, 40-degree, 45-degree inclination, 60-degree inclination. What this structure does, when the angle of attack of the river is reaching towards this particular bank, this structure diverts the angle of attack of the river. So the bank that is there, the other side is going to be protected. Okay, these are some kind of the river training. In addition to this, this is a bundling. Bundling is also a type of the river training, bamboo, and they generate some kind of the roughness elements that could actually reduce the velocity of the river flow. In addition to that, geotubes, geobags, or the gabion boxes, these are also different type of the river training works that could help for us to protect the river bank from erosion and control the problems that are associated because of the floods. Okay. So now my question is, before I implement river training work in the field, do I need to know how is the performance of the river training work is going to be there in the field before I place it? Right? Before you construct the bridge, you do some modeling studies. Right? Same is the case before I place this kind. You know what is the length of this river training work? 300 meters length. What is the height? You know it? 7 meters height. What is the base width? You know it? 10 meters. This is a huge structure that you are placing into the river. Okay? So when you place such kind of the structures inside the river, it is a kind of a sudden shock to the river. So don't you analyze what is the response of the river that is going to be there because if such kind of the structures are placed inside the field. So you need it, right? So what I do some modeling studies. Instead of placing the river training work, implementing inside the field, first what I try to do, I put these structures in a modeling platform and I try to study how is the hydraulic performance of these structures going to be there, how is the morphological response of these structures going to be there, and then whether that response is a positive response or a negative response. I would able to get that, I analyze that, and then I propose that particular structure in the field. Whether I have to put at this location, whether I have to put at this location, whether this location I have to put it, what should be this length of the structure projecting into the field. All these parametric based studies, I do it at a modeling level, and then the success of the modeling study will give me a confidence to place this particular structure in the field. Okay? Yes. Like I told you, the Brahmaputra river is a dynamic river. Why it is dynamic? It has a very weak bed material. It has a very fine band material which are prone to erosion, and there is a fluctuations in the river discharge ranging from 5,000 meter cube per second to 50,000 meter cube per second. Say for example, if I put such kind of the structures inside the river, how is I told you it is going to be a sudden shock to the river. Yesterday that structure was not there. Today you are building that structure inside the river. So that means the river has to absorb that shock. The river has to absorb that new thing that it has come to its body, right? So what I try to do, I analyze it in model. I have placed the structure inside the model. This is the bathymetry that I have collected using the echo sounder, and I have made a contour map. I have placed this structure inside the river, and I am going to give the discharge hydrograph to this particular river, and I am trying to see what is the response of this particular structure after 30 days, after 100 days, after 175 days, after 500 days, after 730 days. That means 2 years from the implementation of this particular structure, how the river is going to respond. Initially, the river is like this, but now after 2 years, the river changed its configuration in this manner. So that means I would be able to get it from the modeling platform whether placing the structure at this particular location is going to give me the positive impact that I need it or not. If this particular structure I will not place the structure at this location. I will change the location of the structure to this, or I will change the location of the structure to this. And again, I will carry out my modeling analysis for 2 years or 3 years, and I will get to know what is the response of the river, how the river is going to react to this particular structure over a period of time, right? If someone gives a slab to you, if you are giving a reverse slab, that means to you, and you are absorbing that, it is going to work, something kind of this. If we are putting a structure here, and the river is responding in a negative way to this structure, then this is not good, right? You see, I have simulated the modeling platform by placing different structures, how the depth of the river in the different seasons is going to vary by placement of these structures. I could analyze it. Okay. So now, overall, we understood something about this particular river system. We got some knowledge, that is for sure, right? So now I am talking about the structural interventions. Like I am asking you to put some engineering structures like spurs, like porcupines, like embankments. All these are something kind of a sudden shock to the river, which are going to put some pressure on the river. Okay, and these are not sustainable solutions as well. Okay, but if you look at the river, river is something that has a life. You should not look the river as a separate entity. Okay, whatever be the disturbance that you are doing to the river. Say for example, if you are doing sand mining to the river, sand mining is good to the river, but excessive sand mining or exploiting the sand mining is actually going to have a negative impact to the river. Okay. So, say for example, if you are constructing a hydropower structure on the river, it is good. But if you are constructing cascading hydroelectric power projects on the river, cascading means every 10 kilometers one structure, every 20 kilometers one structure. If such kind of the cascading structures you construct, it is going to have a negative impact. Okay. Say for example, if you are training the river with one spur or with ion is good. If you are training the river with multiple spurs, with multiple grayons, it is bad. So that means anything that you are doing to the river, like say for example, if one person is going to have a single strength, it's okay. If all the valves of the block and you are putting 3-4 strands, we don't know when he is going to, how long he is doing. So something like that, right? So when you are doing interventions to the river, you have to do intervention. You put such kind of impact on the river. So how you could rejuvenate your river? How you could revive your river? How you could restore your river to the normal functioning? What you have to do? Say for example, if someone advised daily you take the coconut water, your sodium potassium levels will increase. So that means you are giving coconut water to that person and you are increasing his levels, right? Same is the case, you need to do some treatment to the river so that it gets its normal function. Vegetation is one such factor that we do along the river corridor which could actually help to restore back the river. Okay. You see, floodplain vegetation, it is going to have the several benefits actually. It can helpful for control of erosion. It can stabilize the rivers. It can control the morphological dynamics. It can have the good water quality. It can promote the ecology because vegetation zones are very good zones for the breeding of the aquatic life. So it provides a comfortable temperature so that the aquatic organisms prefer to stay there. So if the aquatic organisms are present, vegetation cover is present, clear water is present, nutrient is present, aquatic life grows. The growth of the aquatic life is an indication of the river health. Okay? Yeah. So you see, yes. So what we have done is, we have seen there are so many vegetation patches that are present along the Brahmaputra. So what we'll try to understand how these patches of the vegetation cover is going to have the influence on the morphology of the river, how it is going to have the influence on the hydraulic structures of the river. So what we have done, we have planted vegetation along our experimental channel. You can see the grass type of the vegetation, you can see the mixed type of the vegetation, you can see the leaf patch, grass patch, cylindrical patch. So different patches of the vegetation we have planted along our experimental laboratory, and we have conducted several experiments so as to understand what this vegetation actually does to the flow, right? So what we have noticed, and we have used some equipments like acoustic Doppler velocimeter to see how is the velocity pattern that is going to be there when the flow is interacting with the vegetation. So what we have noticed is that this is a velocity profile without vegetation. Okay, but this is the velocity profiles due to the presence of the vegetation. The 0.2 meter per second of the velocity got reduced to 0.05 meters per second of the velocity. So that means there is a 75% decrease in velocity because of the vegetation cover that I have planted along by flow. So I could able to see different vegetation patches. Leafy type of the vegetation has one control on the river velocity. Grass type of the vegetation has offered one resistance for the river velocity, and cylindrical type of the vegetation has a one control on the river velocity. So what we have understood is that different patches of vegetation are going to have the different controls vegetation at a laboratory level is very good for controlling the river velocity. Say for example, if the same vegetation is there along the river corridor, whether it is going to have the influence on the control of the river morphology. So what we have done, we have taken one particular study niche of the ground, which is more prone to the morphological changes, which is very dynamic to the morphological changes. So what we have done, we have set up a river model and we have placed vegetation cover at this particular location inside the model. We have placed vegetation cover at this particular location inside the model, and we try to analyze how is the response of the river is going to be there for that vegetation patch. You see, this is the vegetation patch. This is another vegetation patch. This is full patch. This is half patch. So what we have noticed is that because of the presence of the vegetation patch, you have got a more area of the deposition in the river. So if more deposition is happening, in some way it could be helpful for the stability of the river. You see, here also